I would always start a discussion of the Cold War with the George Orwell essay, You and the Atomic Bomb, which was published in October of 1945. It's the first use of the term Cold War in the context of a bipolar geopolitical world between the East and the West, although the phrase does date back to 1938 and a discussion about how Nazi Germany was conducting themselves. The reason I cite George Orwell is that with both You and the Atomic Bomb and subsequent works, particularly 1984, George Orwell prophesied the way that the Cold War was actually going to pan out. He had a certain insight as to how things might turn out. Now, this is not futurology, but Orwell really did sort of understand how the transition from the Second World War into the Cold War was likely to take place. And it's Catherine Martin at Oxford University Press pointed out that Orwell started to speculate about 2 or 3 superstates around the world, dividing the world, each with the potential to destroy millions of lives in minutes with atomic bombs. So I'm very much of the perspective that without the atomic bomb we wouldn't have had the Cold War, and that's a perspective that comes from the fact that there's enough evidence that East and West were prepared to engage in conflict so long as it didn't involve them directly or their territories. So this transitionary period is being observed by others in very worrying terms. In Orwell's 1945 essay, he predicted a stalemate that would mean that traditional conflicts were avoided, but lead to what he described as peace that is no peace. And ultimately that could be a very good way of describing how the Cold War did pan out. In the context of Vietnam, his novel 1984, although clearly not dealing with Indochina directly, is very important in understanding what actually happened. And there's been a resurgence of interest in 1984 with the election of the 45th President of the United States in 2016. 1984 is actually a commentary about Britain in 1948, although many people see it as a denunciation of totalitarianism and the Soviet system. And we're going to look to a certain degree where we might borrow from 1984 and help to set our understanding of the Vietnam conflict into that context. So we're going to borrow from Orwell's perspective and look how we can put the Vietnam conflicts into this particular context. Now, Orwell talked about 3 superstates, a tripolar world: Oceania, Eurasia, and East Asia. They are in a constant state of conflicts, but these conflicts take place on the geographic margins of these superstates. The alliances between the 3 states periodically change. The main war is always at a distance from the cause of these main states. And I think that is very important because we've already dealt with the first Indo-Chinese War, and we're going to look at Malaysia and Korea and the Chinese Civil War. The Chinese Civil War might be taken as a conflict for one of the superstates, but certainly in terms of Malaysia and Korea, it does fit into these marginal wars that Orwell was discussing. So as a shorthand proxy to the geopolitics of the Cold War, what Orwell was outlining and his 1949 novel did seem to be something akin to what actually did turn out. Continual war, but well away from the homes of the main players prosecuting that particular war.